And so the reason that I did it is because I got that reaction from people when I accidentally signed up for 2, basically. I kind of did what you did with the dinners. I was like, oh, they're 3 weeks apart. And I said, well, I'll just roll with it. I started telling people who had done them before, and they were my first 2 ever. I had only done a triathlon. My first triathlon was 6 months before that one, before the first one. So I was very inexperienced. And people started reacting that way, just like you did. And they said, oh my God, you're crazy. Don't do that. That's horrible for you. And I went, oh shit, I'm going to do this now.
Well, of course you have to.
I'm
right?
definitely doing it now.
Play soccer. But
yeah.
So I'm assuming you've seen the video, the very famous video of the woman the man who's training for an Ironman and the woman who says, you want to have dinner? I can't. I have to go to bed at 6 p.m. I made that.
Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah, I made that video. That is based entirely on conversations I had with an ex-girlfriend while I was training for my first one in Cozumel. And she came down, she watched me race it, and we broke up about 3 days after. And that video is based on those conversations. Like,
oh, that's so
I have to get up at 4 a.m. What you're 38 years old. Why the hell do you have to get up at 4 a.m? What's an Ironman? You're an idiot. And so, yeah, that literally is based on our conversation.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, I got sent that video by a lot of friends who said, this is you.
100%. Yeah, it blew up. Lance Armstrong found it and he tweeted it out. And this is before we knew he was made of chemicals. So we believed it and we liked it. But yeah, that was he blew that video up for me. It was very funny.
That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there were a lot of opportunities to eliminate choice in that experience.
Yeah.
In the triathlon experience. I found it so helpful.
You have to, because you have to do the training. You can't fake that. I mean, and that's my whole thing is like, I have Kona coming up and Kona's the Ironman wet dream, right? And 2 years ago, when I started training for it, when I got for 2020, I was all in and, trained my ass off. It was canceled. Trained my ass off again in 21. Yeah. It was canceled. And I talk about being honest with yourself. I don't know if I have it in me. I mean, I could force myself to do it, but that's not fun. I don't know if I still have the desire to do 6 months of 2 a days, 3 a days sometimes. I just don't know. Every weekend for 100-mile rides. I don't know. I mean, I raised the money, so regardless, I helped people, but I might just do a couple of halves with some friends and call it a day. I don't know. I'll make my decision towards the end of this month.
I don't blame you for changing your direction on that if you do, because I can force myself to do a lot of things. I could not have forced myself to train for that if I didn't have the motivation, if I didn't have that purpose, that drive.
And that was the thing. I mean, imagine, okay, 1 year they postponed it, of course, and then they tell you can have the second year. And so you go back in full force, and to have it pulled out for you again, I don't know.
That's so hard. No, I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
I don't know the answer yet. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. A lot of the things that you were sharing, I feel like I wish I could have heard when I was 14 and struggling with my own ADHD a lot worse than I am now. But even today, I feel like I learned so much that I can apply in my own life and make better decisions. So thank you.
My pleasure. I love talking about this stuff. Like I said, I'm at Peter Shankman on all of the socials, and I encourage people to reach out. I love talking about this. I at the end of the day, I get emails all the time from people who have read faster than normal and who have said that it helped them. And that to me is worth more than anything. So I want to prevent, if I can prevent some kids from having the same junior high school and high school experience that I had, I between that and my daughter, I've left some good on this earth. I look at it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is I have the same opinion you do, Sangers, that I wish I had heard this when I was young. I remember I'm a little bit older than you are, Peter, but I remember when I was growing up, the way that schools dealt with people who probably had ADHD back then, but it was undiagnosed, was just to yell at them.
Yeah.
And tell them to sit down and shut up and focus. And if they didn't, then you got sent to the principal's office and so they hit you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I remember getting sent to the principal's office to get hit because I couldn't focus. because I was making jokes or trying to get that, and I didn't know it at the time, obviously, but trying to get that dopamine
That's exactly what we were looking for, right?
You were,
the irony.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some kind of hit,
and you're getting smacked in the head because you were trying to become a better student. I totally get it.
I couldn't take drugs, so I had to, make a joke or something and get people to laugh, and that got me sent to go get hit. But and we didn't have any drugs that we even gave kids back then. I'm not advocating that necessarily, but
yeah, I got wrapped up in the give kids drugs generation.
Oh, then the next, and then when I was a parent, what we did is we just said, oh, just give them some drugs.
Yeah.
I was at a meeting the other day, and there was a Hindu priest talking to us, named Dan Dapani. I don't know if you've heard. He's got some videos out on. You can find him. So Dan Dapani said he was talking about focus, the very thing you were talking about earlier, and he pulled some guy. He spoke to this guy at the table next to me, and he said, "Do you play the piano?" And the guy kind of looked at him strange. He said, "No, I don't play the piano." And so he yelled at the guy. He said, "Play the piano." And he yelled at him. And he goes, "Now, can you play the piano?" He goes, "No." He goes, and he yelled at him again, "Just play the piano." And he yelled at him, "Play the piano." He goes, "Well, I guess that didn't work. We should give you drugs. Maybe that will help you." And he goes, "This is what we do to kids. We yell at them to focus. And if they don't focus, we give them drugs. And nobody ever stops to think, maybe we should learn to teach them how to play the piano. Maybe we should learn to teach them how to focus." And, I think the things that you were talking about scheduling that focus time and consciously making decisions to remove distractions like notifications and eliminate choices. I think those are fantastic.
I mean, I see it in my daughter.
I
see it in my daughter. We go out, she'll get up. She usually gets up. She's a pretty good morning person for being 8 years old, but I get her up by like 6:15. We leave the house at around 8. I get her up at 6:15, and right behind me, you probably can't see it, I have a rowing machine, and I'll just have her do 15 minutes in the row when she wakes up, and she we'll talk while she's doing it. She's not going super hard or super fast or whatever, but it's enough movement to wake up her brain and to shift her brain into out of sleep mode and into day mode. And then we have breakfast and we head over to the subway or we take the scooter down to school or whatever, and you can see a physical difference, right? In her focus and her mentality. And, I didn't have it as a kid. I woke up, dragged my ass to the kitchen table and got a ride to school. And I'm not blaming my parents. Who the hell knew, right? So, but I'm just seeing the difference that little 15 minutes of exercise can make in a kid. And it's massive. Yeah. It's just massive.
Fantastic.
Well, I'm thrilled to be. Thank you guys. Really. At Peter Shankman, everyone's welcome to reach out. I'm always happy to chat more about this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
All right.
Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
So my takeaways from our discussion with Peter Shankman, when we started looking at doing this podcast around decision making, my expectation was really that we would come up with frameworks and decision trees and pros and cons lists and those types of things. And what I've found is that it's completely the opposite. It's that one of the ways you make better decisions is to reduce the amount of decisions you make. And that's one of the things he mentioned when he was talking about his rules for life. Exercise daily because it increases the dopamine. I think whether you're ADHD and need to replace that 25% dopamine that you're missing, or anybody else, I think that exercising daily, getting plenty of sleep so you're recharged and refreshed, and then eliminating choices. And he had talked about developing rituals, and this keeps coming up in our discussions about having those rituals, whether that's getting up in the morning and exercising, or having the same thing for breakfast, or organizing your clothes differently, or those types of things. And so those were the things I got from our discussion with him was around making better decisions by eliminating the number of decisions you make.
Yeah, I think that was really wise, and we can all benefit from implementing that more in our own life. My other takeaway is Peter does a lot of things that are very unique that help him make better choices, that help him do things at the level that he wants to execute on. And the reality is each of us are a little bit different, and we have to find what works for us. The trick is that we have to find what actually improves our decision making, not find the things that are comfortable. And I think a lot of times we can lie to ourselves and say, oh, well, I'm just not a morning person. It's not good for me to wake up. Well, are you not a morning person? Or do you not like waking up early because you scroll on your phone on Instagram and Facebook till 1 a.m. every day? Right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you would be better off by doing things a little bit differently. I think a lot of times we either don't focus on what our unique person needs, or we fall into patterns of behavior that prioritize comfort, and we lie to ourselves and say, oh, that's what I need. No, I don't necessarily always need what's comfortable. Sometimes I do need to wake up at 3:30 and hit the bike like Peter talked about.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Decidedly. I hope you learned something. I know I did. If you thought our show was 5-star worthy, please check us out on iTunes and give us a 5-star review. It really helps out a lot, helps people find our community and defeat bad decision making in their own lives. Check us out at decidedlypodcast.com and on Facebook and Instagram at Decidedly Podcast. Until next time, I'm Sanger Smith with Sean Smith. This is Decidedly.
Insights, advice, and comments provided by Sean Smith, Sanger Smith, and speakers identified as part of the Decidedly podcast should not be considered recommendations. Speakers who are not identified as members of Decidedly are expressing their own opinion, and their statements should not be construed as reflecting the views of the Decidedly team. This podcast is produced solely for informational purposes, not personalized advice.